our topic 4. So as I said, we are looking at theories of growth and development. So we have just looked at one theory that helps us to understand cognitive development. So now we are moving on to another theory that we refer to as Sigmund Freud theory of psychosexual development. It's a theory that helps us again to understand better personality development of young children. So by going through this topic, we should be able again to define key terms that are used in this theory. We should be able to explain personality development process in light of Sigmund Freud theory. We should be able to identify structures of personality and explain stages of growth and development, again according to Sigmund Freud theory. And then again we should be able to discuss the relevance of the theory to practitioners in early childhood. So in introduction of this theory, I would like us to just see some of a few things about Freud. What were his beliefs about how children grow and development? So according to this theorist or scholar, children develop through again a series of stages, and according to this theorist, he says that the way we behave, there's always like a force that influences our behavior or that makes us to behave the way we behave, what he referred to as libido or psychosexual energy. According to him, that was the driving force. And he believed that the personality of an individual is established during the early childhood stages of development. How an individual goes through these stages, for example, according to him, a child or an individual can be successful or unsuccessful in these stages of development. If an individual goes through the stages successfully, according to Sigmund Freud, that person is able to develop a healthy personality. However, if the child or an individual does not go through the stages successfully, he says that a scenario that he referred to as fixation results or occurs. And a fixation, when an individual is fixated, means that they have some conflicts that are unresolved. When there is a conflict that is unresolved, it means that a person gets stuck at that point, always trying to resolve that particular conflict. And as a result, you may observe certain behavior in individuals, and you may keep on wondering, why is this person behaving the manner or the way he or she is doing it? It can be as a result of fixation. Sigmund Freud talks about level of the mind, and he kind of came up on a topographical view of the mind, and he used an illustration of something like an iceberg to bring out the levels of the mind. Says that there are 3 levels of the mind, where we have the conscious level. Conscious level, comparing that to an iceberg, he said it's like the tip of an iceberg. What you normally see in an iceberg, the tip, something very small. And he said that this level consists of those that are focus of our attention, something that we are aware of. That's why he referred to it at conscious level, what we are aware of. Then there is the preconscious level, a level that can be retrieved from the memory. We are not, it's not at the conscious level, but if you're triggered, you can remember about that thing because it's in your memory easily and without struggle. Then there is the unconscious level. Unconscious level comprises, according to Sigmund Freud, it comprises of the processes that are real cause of behavior in human being. And it says that in the unconscious part of the mind is where we have some thoughts, experiences repressed and hidden. Some may be experiences that are not good, that one does not like remembering about. They get repressed in the unconscious part of the mind. And he believed that to a greater extent, our unconscious level influences our behavior, and when people maybe are not even aware of. And this particular theorist, what motivated him even to do the study and even to come up with this theory, he was dealing with people who are having behavioral issues, and he would try to find out what is making this person maybe to behave the way he's doing. He would try to go to the unconscious to find out what's likely to be repressed. And therefore, the goal of this particular theory or psychoanalysis is to make the unconscious conscious. When people go to them, you try to investigate what are these things that are likely to have been repressed. The theory also, at the next level, talked about models of personality or structures of personality. And Sigmund Freud identified 3 structures of personality, which are the id, ego, and the superego. So the id is the first structure of personality. A newborn has the id structure of personality developed. It is a kind of, it's the structure that operates at an unconscious level. And it's driven by pressure principle, meaning that it's a kind of a structure that seeks immediate gratification, a structure that always tries to avoid pain. It does not tolerate discomfort. It is self-centered, just things about self, want always to feel good, to feel satisfied, to feel comforted, and so on. And children operate at this level. They always want to feel comfortable. If they are not comfortable, what happens is they will cry. If they are hungry, if they are thirsty, they want just something to drink, no matter what. Even if the mother is sick, even if the mother is at the point of dying, this child will still breastfeed. They really don't care as long as there's a need that needs to be satisfied. So that's how it operates. And it's said to be made, it's made up of 2 biological instincts or drives, which Sigmund Freud referred to as eros. Eros are life instincts, and thanatos are death instincts. Eros or life instincts promote survival, while thanatos can be very destructive. But according to Sigmund Freud, eros or life instincts are more stronger than the thanatos or death instincts, and therefore they promote survival and enables people not to be destructive in this life. So after the id, the next structure of personality that gets to develop is the ego. Because a child comes to a point where they realize that it's not possible to have their needs always gratified or met immediately. They realize sometimes there's need for delay, for gratification, and when they come to that realization, the ego structure of personality develop, which is said to be conscious part of the mind. It is the structure that is said to deal with reality. It is the structure that makes a rational decision, controls reasoning, problem solving, decision making, delays gratification, and it operates within the norms of the society, meaning it's a kind of structure that reasons and asks itself, is it acceptable within the society to do this and this, to satisfy this particular need at this point? If maybe there is a need and maybe time is not appropriate, the ego kind of reasons and tells an individual that there is need to delay the gratification until the appropriate time. Then the last structure of personality that gets to develop is superego. It's said to be the moral branch of personality, which represents the ideals and values of the society, meaning that it's the structure of personality that forms our conscience, which tells us whether something is right or wrong. So if one needs to do something, this structure will reason with the ego, with the superego, and kind of tells an individual that it is not right to do this, or it is right to do something. So it kind of gives approvals for certain things to be done by an individual. So SIGMUND FREUD came up with 5 stages of psychosexual development, and we have oral stage, anal stage, phallic stage, latency, and genital stage. So I would like us again to understand what happens in each stage of development. So during the oral stage, which is between 0 to 1.5 years, it's a stage in which the child is very young, an infant, a stage in which the structure of personality that is operational, it's the id, meaning it's a stage in which the child always wants to be comfortable, to be satisfied, and feeling good. So the primary source of interaction in this stage occurs through the mouth. And according to SIGMUND FREUD, in this stage, mouth is referred to as the erogenous zone. Erogenous zone is that zone that brings about pleasure to the child. So when the child is eating, is breastfeeding, anything that stimulates the mouth at this stage brings about some kind of pleasure and gratification to the child. It's a stage in which the child is very dependent on the caregiver, who is responsible for feeding and making sure that they are comfortable. And the main conflict in this particular stage is resolved, is what we refer to as the weaning process, which helps the child to become less dependent upon caretakers. Once weaning has started, now they are not just dependent on breastfeeding, but they can feed on other type of food. If, let's say in this particular stage, there is under gratification or over gratification, a fixation may occur. And SIGMUND FREUD would say one thing that is important is striking a balance, ensuring that there is no over gratification, there is no other gratification. If a child is fixated in this particular stage, either because of over gratification or other gratification, they might have some behavioral issues where in their life, even when they are adults, they will always be looking for activities that can stimulate their mouth. And which are these activities that keeps our mouth stimulated? One of them is drinking, eating, smoking, nail biting, tongue sucking. You may have come an adult, an adult who is always tongue sucking. You may have come across an adult who is always biting the nails. It can be as a result of fixation, meaning that this person may be enjoyed too much during the infancy stage, or they were deprived, and therefore they are always looking for a way of satisfying that need that was not met during the infancy stage of development. The next stage is anal stage, which ranges between 1.5 years to 3 years. The erogenous zone in this stage is bowel and bladder control, meaning that any functionality that has to do with elimination brings about some form of gratification and enjoyment to the child. So the major conflict at this stage is toilet training. It's a stage in which the child should learn how to control themselves. They need to be trained how to go about eliminating. How should they control themselves? If it's something to do with elimination, how should it be done? Where should it be done? They need this training because they don't know. If there is no training, they can do it anyhow they feel like, but caregivers are there to take control in this particular stage and train appropriately. They're supposed to offer necessary support. It is advised that caregivers are supposed to make sure that they are not too strict in toilet training, and also they are not too lenient in toilet training, because the extremes do have negative consequences. When the caregiver is too strict during the training, what happens is that it may lead to development of a personality that is referred to as the anal retentive personality. Anal retentive personality will be a kind of a personality where you have an individual who is very stringent, orderly, and very rigid. And they might have even standards that are very high, such that even people within the environment are not able to cope with. Then we have, on the other extreme, if caregivers are too lenient, what results is what he referred to as anal expansive personality, which could lead to having an adult who is quite messy and disorganized. This is an individual who cannot put anything in order because of the way they are messy and disorganized in their life. And that's not a healthy personality. So according to this theory, those two extremes have consequences on the kind of a personality that later a person develops in adulthood. And that's why Freud was saying that early childhood experiences really shape or determine the kind of a personality that one develops once they get into adulthood. So the next stage, we have phallic stage, where the erogenous zone at this level is genitals. It is a stage in which that a child comes to the realization that they are either male or female. So that realization comes along with some consequences at this particular stage, discovering who they are, and still there is training that is required at this particular stage. They have required they are male, they have recognized they are females. They need to be trained. How do they even relate to themselves? What is expected of them maybe as females and as males? It is in this stage where we see the boy child getting to draw more closer to the mother, and the girl child gets to draw closer more to the father. And Sigmund Freud talked about two complexes that arise in this particular stage. This is what he referred to as Oedipus complex that affects boys, and Electra complex which affects girls. With Electra complex, the girl starts to draw more closer to the father and feels like the mother is a competitor, and the conflicts that arise from complexes that are identified here are resolved through identification. It is at this point that the girl child gets to identify with the mother, and the boy child gets to identify with the father. And that identification helps them to continue having good relationship, such that the girl child continues to relate well with the father, and the boy child relates well with the mother. And when that happens, an individual is said to be successful. So there are complications that may arise in this particular stage when the child fails to get a model figure to identify with. If a boy child identifies with the mother instead of the father, that means there will be issues. If the girl child identifies with the father instead of if a girl child identifies with the father instead of the mother, again that implies that there will be issues which may affect even a later relationship of the child in adult life. That stage, we have the latency stage. This is the fourth stage, a stage in which, according to Sigmund Freud, the sexual feelings are repressed. So it's a stage in which a child commits self to development of social skills, values, and relationships with adults and other peers within the community. At this particular stage, a child gets concerned more with their interests, with their hobbies, and when they realize that maybe they are good in a certain activity, they normally have a desire to become competitive in that particular area. You see their focus or attention being like toward academics. It's a stage in which they want to perform well academically. If it is maybe in games, in sports, they also want to do well in such activities. So the sexual energy that is said to be present at this particular stage is usually directed toward socially acceptable roles. And there's a lot of learning that happens in this stage. Again, having a model figure is very important in this stage, who a child continues to learn from. Somebody who acts like a mentor, meaning teachers, parents are very useful in this particular stage as the child is developing social skills for life. The last stage, according to Sigmund Freud, he referred to it as genital stage, which is 12 years to adulthood, and the erogenous zone is said to be the maturing sexual interest. It's a stage where we have now the puberty set in, and what happens in this particular stage is that an adolescent now develops interest toward the opposite sex, and they normally have the desire now to relate with the opposite sex. So they want to relate more with the people that are outside their family, and the focus is more on their individual needs, interest, and so on, and they're also concerned about interest and welfare of other people. So if an individual has gone through the other 4 stages successfully, in this stage a child or an individual is able to develop successfully and to develop a kind of a healthy personality in which one tends to be well balanced, warm, and caring, meaning that this is a person that can relate well with the people within the society without difficulties, and they are able to balance different areas of life. They are also able to develop identity, meaning they can be able to tell who really they are in the society. They can talk about their strengths, their abilities, their limitations, and so on. But on the other side, if an individual was not successful in the previous 4 stages, we have an adolescent now having more issues, becoming more problematic, may become an individual who is not really balanced in life due to failure to develop a kind of an identity that they need to be able to relate well in the society. So that's a genital stage of development, and that brings us to the end of the 5 stages of psychosexual development according to Sigmund Freud theory. And at this point, I would like to review with a question, an assignment to do, where I would like you to discuss the relevance of Sigmund Freud theory to practitioners in early childhood education. For you to be able to tell the relevance, it means you have to go back to the stages that we have just discussed and critically evaluate those stages and ask yourself questions. There are certain questions that you need to ask yourself. How relevant is this theory maybe to teachers? How relevant is the theory to caregivers, and so on? I believe the theory is very relevant to caregivers, it's relevant to teachers, and when you take your time, you'll be able to identify so many ways in which the theory is relevant to practitioners in early childhood. So this brings us to the end of the lesson. Thank you for paying attention all through, and have a nice time. Bye.
These televised lectures supplement our robust online learning going on our MKU online platform. You can view more on our televised lectures via our online platform. We are in a digital era, and Mount Kenya University knows this. The following are the steps to follow so as to complete your online application. Download the application form from the website www.mku.ac.ke. Attach copies of your academic certificates and ID. Pay the application fees via M-Pesa pay bill number 270988. Your ID is the account number. 2,000 shillings is the charge for a postgraduate. You can also deposit in the bank accounts provided on the website. Then email all the above to apply@mku.ac.ke.